Hello, storytellers and movie fans. I am starting a new series called Showdown as we take two different movies and look at how they performed individually at the box office and we compare them to each other. It's really fun to come up with different movies to look at in a head to head face off. Maybe ones that are linked in some unusual way or just to see why a movie performed better than the other. And I think it's important to point out that in this scenario, in this series, I'm not rooting against any movie. It's just kind of fun to see how movies perform. I love the fact that movies exist for so many reasons, whether it's getting messages out, or whether it's inspiring or simply entertaining. And there's also so many different audiences out in the marketplace. And when Hollywood is doing its job, it's creating movies. When I say Hollywood, I just mean the film industry in general. It's creating movies that hit unique audiences, and they find every audience to serve. Many movies can be successful at once. And I guess I'm talking about that because the first inspiration for this series, or the recent inspiration, is a social media post I saw that caught my attention. It was opening weekend of two different movies, the two that we're going to talk about today. A person posted something that was getting some attention saying, look, this movie beat this movie in the box office. So America wants a good Bible movie over feminist propaganda. The movies she was talking about were the movies David and The Housemaid. And I had immediately a whole bunch of reactions thinking, well, I mean, that's never true because there's different audiences out there. And like I said, we're trying to create movies for every individual audience. So these different movies can all succeed. Again, that's a good thing. And when different movies are succeeding, that's a great thing for us storytellers. It's a great thing for the film industry, which employs tens and tens and tens of thousands of people across America, probably hundreds of thousands, honestly, which could lead to more movies being greenlit, which leads to more jobs. Obviously, people going and buying tickets, going to theaters. All those theaters are small businesses in different ways, even chains. They're all individually owned. People going out means they have enough expendable money that they can go out and enjoy themselves, which is good for them. Honestly, it supports America. It's patriotic to go to the movies, putting money back into the economy. And of course, movies bring people together. Even if you don't see the same movie, I was just thinking about this, that you could talk to anybody and say, hey, what was the scariest movie you've ever seen in a theater? People could talk about a whole bunch of different movies, but all having that kind of shared experience of going to a theater and scaring themselves. Or, what's the time you embarrassed yourself ugly crying the hardest at a romantic comedy or a drama in a theater? These are things that we can all connect on, no matter what political party we are, no matter what movies we've even seen. Movies bring us together. And that's something that I'm always behind, not just talking about movies, but life in general. Life should be about putting us together, not separating us. And that brings me to the next point, which when I was thinking a Bible movie versus feminist propaganda, The Housemaid has two female leads in it, but it's not a feminist movie. And then I realized that I think the person was talking about The Handmaid's Tale. So this idiot was trying to create a culture war battle, and they didn't even know what they were talking about. I'm not a name caller, but that person's obviously an idiot. They're trying to separate people. They're trying to get us to be angry with each other, and they don't even know what they're talking about in the first place. Screw them. But let's actually take a look at it, because it is interesting. These movies both open on the same weekend. It's always fun to compare movies that open on the exact same weekend, because sometimes it can be difficult to track day to day when one movie opens, let's say Thanksgiving weekend, and the other one's in the middle of the summer. There's different peaks and valleys. It's hard to get a one-to-one comparison, but these two different movies open on the exact same day. So let's dive into it. If you look across the bottom, those are the days of release. And obviously, as you go up the scale, that's money earned. Opening weekend, David brought in $22 million, while The Housemaid brought in 19. So it was a close one, but definitely David won the opening weekend. And it was really fun to watch this going day to day, week to week. They were both performing very, very well. And again, that's what we want. We want all movies to succeed, but we do see The Housemaid closing the gap. It gets closer. And then maybe at around close to almost 15, maybe 14 days in, they are tied. And we can actually go down here. I'm using thenumbers.com. And honestly, when you look at the daily comparison, the entire first week, David outgrossed The Housemaid. The top number up here is what it made on the day, and then the number below it is the accumulated number. So after the first week, even though it was only a $3 million difference after the first weekend, after the first week, it was a $6 million advantage for David. But then the tide turned. And as we see, The Housemaid starts to make some gains, starting with that second weekend. It went almost every single day of that week. We see on Wednesday, the second Wednesday. David won that day, that individual day. Look at the total numbers here. By the third Friday, the Housemaid took a lead in the overall total by just a $500,000. 15 days in, it is a virtual tie at this point. But then the Housemaid goes absolutely nuts and continues and continues and continues to be successful. Another good reason why you don't talk trash too early. And again, I'm rooting for every movie to succeed. But this person, I guess I was rooting against that person individually a little bit here. And you just really see the Housemaid opens up this gap. I do have to say, both of these movies did really, really well. David, which is from Angel Studios, it has legs. Both of these movies had legs. Legs is you take the opening weekend and you see what that is as a ratio of the total money it earned. Legs for David is 3.65. So it's opening weekend of $22 million. Multiply that by 3.65, and that's where you get the total gross. That's really, really good. I mean, once you start to get up to 4, you're talking legendary status. So David did really good. I don't want to overshadow that Housemaid destroyed David, which, we'll see. We're looking at the domestic totals here. David was out of theaters, wasn't making much money after about 6 or so days. The Housemaid stuck around for just another week to tack on, but even when David left, the difference was huge, $125 million to $80 million. Again, they both did well. So it's not like either of these movies is a failure. David, the legs were 3.65. What was it for the Housemaid? 6.64. Unreal numbers for the Housemaid. It's an absolutely enormous success for Lionsgate. And to show exactly how much of a success, even when adjusted for inflation, The Housemaid is the 20th most successful Lionsgate film ever, over things like The Expendables 2, John Wick Chapter 2, Saw 4. But that isn't the full story. We're only looking at domestic so far. How much money these movies made in America, which again is $126 million down here to $80 million. Now let's take a look at internationally. Internationally, The Housemaid brought in another $250 million, 259 to David's 3, we'll call it 3.6, for a worldwide total of $385 million to 83.9. And again, this is not the full story yet, because when we talk about if a movie is successful or not, we want it to make its money back, if not a little bit extra, in the theatrical window. And really, to do that, you want to bring in anything from 2.5 to 4 times the actual production budget to break even. Because when you're selling a ticket in a movie theater, the theater is keeping a percentage of that ticket. Also, you're spending money. It's usually somewhat proportionate to the production budget. You're spending money on marketing. So when you're saying make your production money back, you're not just looking for the production budget back. You're looking for 2.5 to 4 times that. For this, let's keep it simple across the board. We'll just say 3 times. And these numbers here at the top are the production budgets. So we're looking at The Housemaid at $35 million. Let's just say it needs to make $100 million to break even. Well, it made $385 million. So that is so much pure profit going back to Lionsgate, which is going then back into the company that they can reinvest in other films. Again, a great thing for storytellers, for people that want to see productions continue and people continue to get hired and make movies in America. David, as we see, its production budget was $60.9 million. When you're comparing it to a Pixar movie, that's low, but that is still, it's not cheap. So that just puts the target way higher. So if we're looking at wanting to triple that, we're looking at trying to make $180 million to break even. And as we see here, worldwide total, as I'm recording this on February 26th at $83 million, that is a huge miss. Now, does that make David an unsuccessful film? Actually, no. If you know filmmaking, if you're paying attention to how things are going in Hollywood and in filmmaking, Angel Studios uses a totally different model. They have a lot of donations. That is part of where their income comes from. They absolutely have a different business model. That said, would they have liked to bring in $180 million to cover their expenses a lot more than they did? Absolutely. This movie, it has to be looked at as a partial success. It's not a total failure. It, absolutely 100% is not a total failure. They've got their streaming service. That risk is kind of spread out over different avenues when it comes to Angel Studios. But if we're looking at it just in the classical standpoint, David was not a success in theaters in the theatrical window. I will also say, though, the final line has not been written when it comes to David, not only because Angel Studios being a little bit different, but also it has not opened in every single international territory yet. So I do think we have more money coming in for David in the future. Some of their next openings are in the middle of March. So it'll be a while before the full story is written on David. That said, I don't think there's huge markets still ahead. I'm sure there's several $1 million more coming in. We'd have to be talking about $100 million more coming in to start looking at breaking even. And even if that happened, which is super unlikely, there's no doubt about it, The Housemaid was a more successful film than David. So that person that was trying to create a culture war for no reason at all, it really has egg on their face. Taking a look at the screen here, this shows the international territories for David. So we have Argentina, Austria, Belgium, Bolivia, Bosnia, some smaller marketplaces, but some also bigger ones. This is a film with a Christian appeal. So a movie territory like Argentina, it might do well there. As we see, really a lot of places, especially in South America, it has not yet opened. It hasn't opened in Mexico. It can do a lot. It can do several $1 million in Mexico alone. So it will be very interesting to see how this does. Something that's kind of interesting to see here as well. I don't see England or the United Kingdom. Usually it's listed as the United Kingdom. I don't see the UK listed here. So maybe there isn't yet a UK release planned, which again, that's another place that could potentially bring in several million more dollars. At the end of the day, we just have to say that The Housemaid did tremendous business. Both of these movies opened on December 19th. So it makes sense that David got off to a great start. A Christian movie, a Bible story around Christmas. But it really did succeed because it continued to play very well through the winter. The Housemaid just did even better. I would say it was victorious on three fronts. One, it stuck around a very long time. Despite only making $19 million on its opening weekend, it went on to make $126 million. Movies don't stick around like that anymore, the way it's usually so front loaded nowadays. So it stuck around for a long time. Its international appeal was huge, $250 million internationally to add on to the 126 it made domestically. And then lastly, how the third part of what made that so successful is the budget was low, just $35 million. So when we're looking at the production budget compared to the worldwide take, like we said, we wanted to at least do 2.5 times. If we're lucky, 4 times. And if we're very lucky, more than 4 times. This movie made 11 times its production budget. Conversely, David made just 1.4 times its production budget to absolutely not make a profit in the theatrical window, with the caveat, of course, that Angel Studios has donations and they make money other ways. But without question, in this matchup of The Housemaid versus David, well, Goliath won on this one. If you have suggestions of 2 different movies you want to see matched up face to face like this, how they did box office wise, leave a comment. I have a lot of these scheduled. This kind of stuff, I usually just nerd out about this on my own. So if anybody finds this interesting, definitely leave a comment, like the video, and let me know which movies you think I should match up for a one-on-one showdown. Thanks for watching.